Hi, hello. It's good to meet you again and to continue on this path of apologetics. And in this unit, we are looking at the tools that are available to somebody who's going to carry out the work of apologetics. In a previous presentation or previous presentation, we have explained what apologetics is, and we have stated that apologetics is derived from the Greek word apologia. And in a sense, we have known the root or the source of this word. It came from Plato, for instance, as he wrote that great book called Apologia, which is defense. And as he was observing Socrates defending himself before that body, although eventually he never succeeded and was killed for his position, having been accused of, misleading the young people. Socrates paid for it with his life. But Plato writes, and he calls it Apologia. And in that book, he presents argument upon argument that was presented by Socrates. Obviously, the Christian church has adopted the word apologia or apologetics to talk about Christian apologetics. And Christian apologetics is basically the defense of the Christian faith. But increasingly in the world today, we are seeing people, whether Christians or non-Christians, rising up against any religion, against the Christian faith, or anything that is to the glory of God. And so in the academics and wherever, people stand against the Christian faith. Charles Darwin, for instance, when he wrote his book, published his book in 1859, The Origin of Species, he argues that actually the world was not created by God, but things evolved. And many people now believe, whether in academia or elsewhere, they believe that the world actually evolved rather than was created by God. Well, the tools that we are talking about are there to help the Christian to carry out their work. So what are the tools that are available to the Christian? What can they use? Well, I won't tell you what each tool is. I have written it in the reading section, prescribed reading. Please read it, avail yourself there and understand it. But I'll give you, in summary, what those tools are. The first tool that I'll bring to you is that you need to embrace and take in the correct hermeneutic. In other words, you need to understand how to interpret Scripture. What is in the Bible? What is the Bible saying? What does the author, the original author, what did the original author intend to communicate? If you don't have the correct hermeneutic, chances are you begin to interpret Scripture in a wrong way, and therefore it will give you a wrong application. You begin to practice what is wrong. So hermeneutics is the interpretation. You use certain tools. For instance, you begin to avoid to fall into what are known as fallacy, apologetical, would I say hermeneutical and interpretation fallacies, and things like that. So you need to know that Scripture interprets Scripture. Scripture never contradicts itself. If you don't understand something, chances are you have not read properly and interpreted something well. So hermeneutics, the principles, sound principles. You know, you can have a hermeneutic, but it's not sound. It doesn't interpret the Bible well. It doesn't help you to interpret, let's say, the book of Psalms well, or the book of Romans. You know, those are different genres, and therefore you need those tools. So you need to have those tools. Secondly, you need to have what are called philosophical tools. Tools that will help you to think logically and to think ethically and to establish what is real and what is not, metaphysics and so on. So if a philosophical mind examines the premise upon which somebody is arguing and demolishes or argues for a position, that is philosophical tools. And Christians are generally very weak on that. They think that philosophy is only for the Greeks or those that don't believe. No, Christians must have a sound, logical, ethical mind, be able to argue a case. Then we have tools that are scientific. And in one of these topics, I have dealt with the different categories of science and how to approach them. But basically, science is knowledge, is truth that is established using the scientific method or an approach that somebody can use to arrive at truth. So, scientific sciences can be factual, and obviously empirical evidence, especially if you're dealing with the hard sciences, or if you're dealing with social sciences, they can, arrive at truth in a different way, but yet they are scientific. So what are the categories? Quickly, we're talking about the foundational sciences, as mathematics and others. These are used in all the sciences to verify and check if something is correct. And then there's the hard sciences that I've talked about. They are very fixed and precise. They are arrived at using a certain scientific method, a process experimentation, and so on. So we have physics and chemistry there. Then we have what are known as the biological sciences. That's biology and so on. Some of these things may not be exact sciences rather. They are sciences, but not exact sciences. But they give us truth because things change. Then there are what you call the social sciences, sociology, psychology, and so on. Studying human behavior and arriving at a position. Then we have, of course, the historical sciences. That's where we find archaeology and so on. We are trying to collect artifacts that will give us a narrative. As we read them, as we understand, they will probably help us arrive at what is true. Then we have another category of tools is those that are propaganda tools to control the narrative, to take out a message. And so when you are in apologetics, you need to know what premise is somebody using, what tools are they using, what are the things saying? Are they factual? Can they be verified? Or it's just pushing an agenda? For instance, there are some people who are telling us certain things that were viewed as wrong many years ago. The Bible was wrong, they argue, and therefore the truth is this. But when you ask them for scientific evidence, they will bring evidence that is spurious and sometimes is not even true. But I must hurry on, friends, and say that we need to have tools that are able to handle what is known as mind manipulation. Being able to disentangle and bring out the strides, each one of them, so that somebody is correct. Because, mind manipulation is equal to some kind of bondage. And some Christians sometimes are bound by things that are from tradition or then not even true at all. But then we are talking about that a Christian must have certain debating abilities, competences, and techniques to engage those that are not Christians and be able to meet them at their own turf and yet bring out what Scripture says to the glory of God. For example, if somebody comes across and is brash, is argumentative, he's insulting, how should a Christian respond to such a person? If you meet somebody who is using an argument that is outdated, an argument that has no serious support from Scripture, what should a Christian do? Those are debating techniques. But finally, the Christian should develop or should use tools that engage somebody using their own words, asking leading questions that will lead somebody either to entangle themselves or to be clearer or to bring out a position perhaps which is weak or is strong, but you'll be able to ask them logically and so on, and then come up with a conclusion. Well, friends, these are a few of those. There are still others out there. But a Christian who is using an integrated approach will have in their toolbox some good elements that are from presuppositional, then others that are from evidential, those that are appropriate and will be able to advance the cause of Christ. Obviously, you know that I lean towards presuppositional apologetics because the scriptures are God's final word. But there's certain things that we can use in nature, there's certain arguments that we can use, but scripture remains the final authority. So don't forget to read what I have sent, but also to answer the questions that go together with this assignment. And I hope this presentation was helpful. Thank you.